Right.
Okay.
So, what's your like?
Today we're going to start on Hey Amud Aleph. Sorry.
No.
Sorry. We're going to start on Dalet Amud Aleph. Today we're supposed to be doing Hey. Daf Hey. Today we're going to start on Dalet. Dalet Amud Aleph on the bottom. Okay. We go a little longer today. So we have to do a blot and a half. Amar Gufa. It's 4 lines from the bottom on Dalet Amud Aleph. Gufa is when we return to a statement of an Amayra. That's what we've been suggesting, that that's the difference between Gufa and Amar Mar. Amar Mar, we think that Amar Mar means a brisa. Okay, so Amar Rava, this was a statement before. Amar Rava Yisrael Mumar, Yisrael, that a Jewish person that transgresses, Eichel Nevelas L'Te'avan, he eats non-kosher, but only because he's not out of spite, just because he wants food. So, Baidik Sakin V'naisenli. You can give him a knife, you check a knife, you give it to him, and then you can actually rely on his shchita. My timer. What's the reason for Rava's ruling? Since he has 2 options. He can do it properly, or he can do it in a forbidden way. So, he would never leave the heter and do it in a forbidden way. If he can do it permissible, why is he going to do it forbidden? It's the same thing. If it's the same price. If that's the case, so why do we have to say that you checked the knife and you gave it to him? For the same price, he can check the knife and shechte. He says, no, mitchach leitarach. He won't bother himself so much. That's already a lot of work. To check the knife and then to make sure that it's good. Here, you already made sure that the knife was good. Amalei Rabbanan L'Rava. The rabbis, which maybe the students, or they tell Rava, Tanya de Messiah, I'll bring you a brisa that's going to prove that you're correct. Chemtzen shel oivri aveira achar Pesach. If there's someone that doesn't sell his chametz, so after Pesach, immediately after Pesach, you go to this person, and you're allowed to eat from this person's food. It's mutter miyad. Why? Because what they'll do is they'll go to a non-Jew, and they'll switch their chametz with a non-Jew's chametz. Because even though their chametz is on Pesach, they kept it the whole Pesach. And I use the word sell. That's incorrect. They didn't destroy their chametz. They don't want to take that loss. And the concept of selling wasn't around there. So it's a modern invention. Since the Jews owned the breweries, so that's when they started to sell chametz. So this person didn't destroy his chametz. So after Pesach, he goes to a non-Jew. He takes the chametz that he has, that he's not allowed to eat himself, because it's chametz shavar of a Pesach. He goes and he exchanges it with a non-Jew's chametz. Now he has chametz. Now Rashi points out that he actually can't eat this chametz either, but he can give it to someone else. If he eats this chametz, then he's going to be getting benefit from chametz shavar of a Pesach, which is asur b'hana. But if he gives it to someone else, then that's not considered a benefit. So you're allowed to, if you exchange. Well, there is such a thing that the prohibition travels it gets transferred from what's prohibited onto the money, and then onto the value of this new food, and then that gets transferred over to the next thing. But that's only by avodah zarah and things like avodah zarah. It doesn't apply to chametz. So therefore, the thing that it's exchanged for is prohibited, but that doesn't get transferred over to anything else. So So the value of the actual chametz itself, this person can't eat, but he can definitely give it to someone else or sell it to someone else. Because they exchange it. Okay, savrua. The rabbis understood. They bring a proof to Rabbi that says that someone that's a transgressor is never going to leave something that's permitted and do what's forbidden. It's so easy to exchange the chametz. So what are they understanding? Hamani Rabbi Yehuda. They must be accepting the view of Rabbi Yehuda. This Bais says Rabbi Yehuda that says you're allowed to eat the chametz of someone that doesn't get rid of his chametz before Pesach. Damar chametz achar Pesach deraisa. It's Rabbi Yehuda's view that holds that chametz after Pesach is deraisa. Uktani, and it was taught why, it's forbidden biblically, and it was taught why are you allowed to eat his chametz? Because he exchanges it. Now, why would he exchange it? Because he can do it permissibly. So we're proving that Rav is correct, because Rav says that if you have the ability to shech, make it kosher, that's also a deraisa. If the food is kosher, if the animal is kosher. Prove from chametz, which has the same status, that he would never do something that's prohibited, and if the option of doing it permitted is there, and it's the same biblical severity. Maybe it's even more. Here it's kares, and we're trusting him that he's not going to do the yisr, and by the shechting, we should trust him as well that he's not going to do the yisr. He's going to shecht it properly. Alma, we see from the case of chametz that lo yishaveh ketera v'achal yisura. He would never forgo the permissible and eat the forbidden. Okay, the Gemara challenges this. In other words, we're trying to prove that the din of Rava, that you can trust a mumar, a transgressor, to shecht properly if he has that option. The Gemara says, Mimai, Dilma Reb Shimoni. Maybe this brisa that says that you can exchange, you can get chametz from a transgressor after Pesach, it's really the opinion of Reb Shimon. The Amar chametz achar Pesach derabanan, that says that chametz that's left over Pesach is only forbidden rabbinically. V'chi makalina b'derabanan. Why are we lenient over there? Because it's only a rabbinic prohibition. But b'deraisa le makalinan. But we would never be lenient by a deraisa, which takes us back to the case of shchita. Maybe we shouldn't be lenient if he transgresses. We see he doesn't eat kosher all the time. We're going to rely on him for a deraisa? By chametz, it's only a rabbinic prohibition. We say that that we can rely on him, that maybe he exchanged it. But for a biblical prohibition, who says that he actually did it correctly? We have to be more certain that he did it correctly if it's biblical. I'm sorry.
Why is it that here it doesn't call him a mumar and there he calls him a mumar? What's the difference between them?
I mean, by the chametz we called him Ivrei Avera. I don't know.
Mumar seems a lot worse.
Right.
What it means, Umar?
Today, we use the word mumar, means somebody converted. It's a himur. It's a conversion. It seems very.
That's not the translation here.
Obviously not that he's converted, but
there was a Rashi somewhere
that's a translation
that
of
used
mumar.
the term meshumad. I forgot the mumar. There was a Rashi somewhere.
Right. Is converted.
Yeah, there were two versions in a Rashi somewhere. But no, here a mumar, especially, this is just, it's a mumar l'davarachad. He's not he didn't convert. He's just.
What's a mumar lahachas?
Mumar lahachas means that he's doing it in spite.
Oh, so there's all variations.
Yeah.
Of mumar.
Yeah, here it's just, he accepts this.
But it seems like this chametz, they didn't put him that high in the Gemara.
To call him a mumar. Uh-huh. Yeah, it is a diak.
I think mumar means rebellious.
Right.
Saramara.
Right.
Well, what?
Right, rebellious.
Sorer Amora. Ben Sorer Amora.
It's much closer to the Lashon Leah Mirano.
This is semantics.
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
The Gemara now asks.
The Safari translates it as transgressor.
Uh-huh. So, we were suggesting that maybe on a rabbinic law we'll rely on a mumar. but not for a biblical law. That he's doing it correctly. The Gemara says it, Tehavinami Reb Shimon. Let it be Reb Shimon. Miktani shani oimer hechlifu. Does it say that we're going to assume that he exchanged it? Mipnei shemachlifin ktani, devade machlifin. If we were looking for an assumption, did he do it correctly, did he not do it correctly, then we can say that on a biblical law we're going to be strict, on a rabbinical law we'll be lenient, we'll assume, because it's all assumptions. When will we accept that he did it correctly? We'll assume that by a rabbinic law. By a biblical law we have to be more strict. But if that's not what we're saying, if we're saying that there's no assumption here, we're saying that that's actually what he did. Now, if we're going to say that he's stricter on a rabbinic law, that he's not stricter, that he's strict on a rabbinic law, just as, or whereas for a rabbinic law, he was not willing to forgo what's permissible and do the forbidden thing. In other words, he was going to be strict and he was going to do what's permissible and not do what's forbidden. For sure he's going to be strict about a daraisa. So if he could somehow get away with it by eating chametz that was left over Pesach, by claiming that, it's biblically permissible anyway. Show me in the Torah where it says that this is a problem. Pesach is over, it's not a problem. But nevertheless, we say that he would never do that because if he has the ability to do something correct, he's not going to do it incorrect. So for sure, if it's biblically forbidden, which we're talking about shechting properly, so for sure we're going to say that he would do it correct and not do it incorrect. So this seems to be a proof to Rava that we can rely on mumar, that it's going to be kosher. Lema Messiah. Let us say that we have a proof to Rava. We quote now, I think it's a Bais. It says, Hakol sheichten, everyone can shecht, va'afilu kuti, even a kuti, va'afilu aral, even someone that was not circumcised, va'afilu Yisrael mumar, and even a Jew that transgresses. So we have 3 people in this category that are allowed to shecht. So, hay aral hechidami. What are we referring to when we say that this person doesn't have a bris? Ilema, if we say, mesu echav machmas mila, that his brothers passed away from the circumcision. He was hemophiliac. And the rule is that if 2 brothers, we follow Rabbi's opinion that a chazaka is twice when it comes to death. That if 2 brothers pass away, so then the 3rd one is assumed to have the same gene. The Gemara says that it also would apply if 2 sisters have sons that passed away, like if the mothers have children, because then the cousin would also not have the bris, because this is hemophilia is it's on the X chromosome.
Yeah, from the
so it's X-linked. So they knew that in the Gemara, and they didn't have the term X, but they knew that it followed the mother, because the Gemara says clearly that if it would be the father's brother, then it wouldn't have that. So, so if it's someone that his brothers died, and so he, for halachic reasons, he didn't have a bris. In other words, it was accepted why he doesn't have a bris. So why he's telling me that he's allowed to shecht? Hayisrael Ma'aliyahu, he's a regular Jew. It would be like saying someone that doesn't fast on Yom Kippur because he's diabetic or something. You have to tell me that he's following the halacha. It's not that you don't have to tell me that he was supposed to do that. So elapshita, it must mean mumar la'arlas, that he was someone that was supposed to have a bris, but he doesn't have a bris. He's a mumar. He's transgressing. V'kasavar, and we're holding, or this brisa holds, mumar l'davar echad, that someone that does one transgression, la'yavim mumar l'chal l'Torah kula, is not considered a mumar for the whole Torah. So therefore, we'll trust his shechita. Now, if that's the case, that mumar la'arlas is an individual transgression. But it doesn't mean that his shechita is not kosher. He just does one thing. Let's look at the end of this brisa. Ba'afilu Yisrael mumar. Even a Yisrael mumar is allowed to shecht. Hai mumar hechidami. What type of mumar are we talking about? He's a transgressor. What type? If he transgresses one sin, hainam mumar la'arlas. That's the same case. Maybe you didn't give an example, but it's over there. We already gave an example. It's exactly the same thing. Elalav mumar la'isadavar. It must mean that he's a mumar for kashrus. He doesn't keep kosher. He eats nevela, and nevertheless, he's allowed to shacht. Ukeda Rava, this would be a proof to Rava. Rava says that you're allowed to give someone that doesn't keep kosher a knife, as long as it's checked, and you can trust him that it's shechted properly.
Our mission already told us that a mummer is good to shacht.
According to Rava's opinion.
So why do we need this price though?
According to Rava's opinion, we had like 5 interpretations in the Mishnah.
Right.
The Mishnah didn't say really a mummer.
Rava said 4.
No, Rava. We could have thought that hakol meant someone that's tamei. We could have thought hakol meant someone that's not a muhsik. We could have meant that someone that doesn't know the laws, but or we could have said a kuti. We had all of these interpretations. Rava, according to Ravashi, that we said was Rava's opinion, was that we're talking about a Yisrael mumar. So now we have a brisa that proves that that Rava's interpretation would be correct. But I get what you're asking. You see, the Gemara never likes to say that we have a brisa that says exactly the same as the Mishnah. However, if it's not clearly in the Mishnah, then we try to bring a brisa that proves that's the pshat in the Mishnah. That's why sometimes it says Tanina Chadazimna. We already learned that. But sometimes it says Tanina Laha de Tana Rabbanan. So Afananami Tanina. We also learned this. Why is that not a question? The answer is because it wasn't mefurish in the Mishnah. So that's why we bring. If it's not clearly in the Mishnah, then a brisa is brought as a support. If it was clearly in the Mishnah, then it would be why do we need it twice? Okay.
Is Mila a mitzvah for the person, or it's for the father of the person, or that doesn't matter?
It starts off on the father, and then it gets transferred to the bezdin, and then it gets transferred to the person. So ultimately, it falls on the person.
Okay.
The Tosfos over here points out. He says that Meiser Echad Machmas Mila, the brothers passed away, would only apply if the brothers had a bris when they were older. Because it could be that the brothers had a bris when they were younger. It wasn't hemophilia that caused them to pass away. It was that the circulatory system wasn't because it switches direction after the birth. So the circulatory system wasn't perfect, and they died because the blood wasn't flowing properly. But when they were older, they should have had a bris. So what's the proof? When would it be really hemophilia that it's Meisach Machmas Mila that this third brother shouldn't have a bris? Was only if they had the bris when they were older. The Ritva says something interesting. He says, and it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Because let's say the 2 brothers died when they were young. Now the third brother, the bris was when they were 8 days old. The third brother doesn't want to have a bris. They tell him that, by the way, we don't know. It could be hemophilia. It could be something else. Let's do the bris. So you wouldn't be considered a mumar if you're not having a bris out of fear. That's not, even though the halacha may be different, but if there's a fear of death involved, that would not, that wouldn't make him a mumar. Okay.
That would make Yehuda's third son a mumu.
Yehuda, because of the...
Because he has 2 brothers that died.
That's interesting.
And if you think about the Pasha.
That's interesting. Very interesting. The Gemara now says that maybe it's not a proof to Rava. Loi la meimalach, really, I could tell you that when it says mumar, Yisrael mumar, it's really mumar lois. Loi la meimalach, really, I'll tell you that mumar lois adavar loi. That we wouldn't trust the mumar lois adavar. My timer. What's the reason? Mumma Leisadavar is someone that doesn't keep kosher. But are we going to trust him now to shech? My time. Why are we going to? Why would we say that? Given the dashba keteredamilef. He did it so many times. He ate non-kosher. So it's like, yeah, I do this all the time, and nothing happens. It's not a big deal. It becomes not significant. So what's the pshat in the Gemara, in the Bais? The Bais said that Yisrael Mummer is allowed to shech. We said that it must be Mummer Leisadavar. It can't be just Mummer Ledavar Echad, because Mummer Ledavar Echad is Arlas, and that's another example. So what are we left with? Ela Mummer Lavedas Kechavim. It must be that he's a Mummer Lavedas Kechavim, that he's a Mummer to worship idols.
Wow.
Ravanan. And nevertheless, even though he worships idols, but he still keeps kosher. The Ravanan. The Ravanan, if he's able to, that's what we're saying. The Ravanan number Shmuel. Ravanan says the name of Shmuel. Yisrael mum alavedis kechav mutal echel mishchitasi. You're allowed to eat from his shchita.
Wow.
It's very interesting.
That's so amazing.
Oh, you switched religions and you can check. It's like a
Still
guy.
keeps kosher.
It's like a guy.
Yeah, we're going to see they're going to argue on Ravanan, but this is Ravanan's opinion. I had a friend that was did smicha with me, but he became a reformer, conservative rabbi. He was walking by in Manhattan at a synagogue. They said they need to hire someone that knows how to lane. So he took the job. He became like not religious. And anyway, so my wife had a friend also that wasn't religious. I said, "Oh, perfect shidduch. Like you can just match them like that." So I said, "Look, we know someone." So he says. I know about her. I know about her. I'm not. Wouldn't marry her. She still washes Negelwasser. There's certain things.
And they have 10 children.
There's certain things that they still keep. You know, somehow like this person is Eved Avodah Zarah, but you can still trust keep certain things. Gufa. Okay, we're going to go back and discuss the statement of Ravanan. Amar Ravanan, Amar Shmuel. Ravanan says in the name of Shmuel, Yisrael Mumalavid's Kichavim, Yisrael, that he transgresses idolatry, Mutalech Mishchitasi. You're allowed to eat from Mishchita. Shekem Matzina b'Yoshafat Melech Yehuda, we find Yoshafat, the king of Yehuda, Shenan Misudas Achav, that he ate from Achav. Achav was him and his wife, Izebel. They were supporters of Baal and Asherah. They were like very idolatrous. That was the showdown with Eliyahu was. So, I'm sorry. Oh, so this is what we're discussing. It says Shenemar. This it doesn't say in the Book of Kings. This it says in Divrei Hayamim that v'yisbach le'achav tzayna baka l'roiv l'la'am asher imay v'yisitu l'ales el ramay skilad. This is the end of the story of Achav, where Achav wants to go to war against Aram, and Yehoshaphat is there. Yehoshaphat and Achav were related through marriage. They were the in-laws, and he wants to go to war. And Yehoshaphat is visiting Achav, and Achav convinces him to go to war with Aram together with him. And it says that they slaughtered over there a lot of cattle. And he convinced him to go to Ramay Skilad, which was an area that belonged to Achav that Aram had taken, and they wanted to get it back. So the Gemara asks, but the Dilma Mizbach Zabach Mechel Yochel. How do you know that he ate it? Maybe they slaughtered it, but he didn't eat. I had a relative that this is before my times, but. A relative, my grandmother's relative, was getting married in Washington. So they told her that the food's going to be kosher. It's the same caterer that catered the Camp David Accords, and Begin was there, so it had to be kosher. So they said, "Oh, okay." They went over there. They asked about the caterer. They said, "Yes, this was the caterer that catered the Camp David Accords, but Begin didn't eat."
Oh, so
Begin had a TV dinner. It was a good story. So Achav was the caterer, but Yehoshaphat didn't eat. So it's no proof. So no, it says no. Vayasiteu. It says that he convinced him. Basically, it was like seduced him. He like he convinced him to go to battle over this. So it must be that he ate. V'dilma b'dvarim. Maybe it means no. Maybe he convinced him with words, and the food was there, but he didn't actually eat. It says ein hasata b'dvarim. That's not considered convincing. Hasata. It has to be over a meal. You don't use that term.
Jewish.
You don't use that term of hasata with words. Vaksiv ki yasischa achicha. It says when your brother will lead you astray, and we're talking about over there in the Mesis Mediach, he leads a person to worship idols, the laws of that person. That's bachilu shtiyah. It's talking about with food and drink. Vaksiv vasiseini by lavalachinam. This is by the God is telling the Satan that you were convincing me to destroy Eily. So God definitely doesn't eat. He uses the term convincing. So obviously it's not referring to food. It says Lamaila Shiny. When it uses it, we're referring to God. Of course it's not referring to food. V'dilma mishta ashti mechalayachal. Maybe he only drank and he didn't eat. The meat wasn't kosher. He only had, we would say he only had salads. No, he would say he only drank. The Gemara says, 1 second. Maishna shtiya da amrinan. What's the difference when it comes to drink? Da amrinan mumalavay deskechavim layam mumalachala that, look, Achav's drinks. He's a mumalavay deskechavim. We're going to say that, so what? His food is still kosher. And you're allowed to drink there. Achilanami mumalavay deskechavim layam mumalachala kula. We should say the same thing. If you can drink there, you can eat there. It says, Hachi has to hold it. 1 second. That you can't say it like that because shtiya stam yenim. What's the problem with the drink? The drink is wine. When was forbidden wine? When did the wine become forbidden? That we don't drink wine of an idolater. That was in the times of Shammai and Hillel, that they forbade. They made that decree on the wine. So va'adayin leinasa yenim shalei dekechavim. Their wine wasn't forbidden yet. Wine that was poured for idol worship, of course, is forbidden. That's yayin nesach. But what about just regular wine, together with an idolater? That was still permitted. So, Elchanan should have lived in this time, Yeshaphat's time. He could have drank. So, this is wine of an idolater that's permitted because it's before the prohibition. So, but he wouldn't be allowed to eat.
Quick question. When he talks about a guy who's over they're comparing it to a mumar, and this was a mumar, but the mumar was late'avan.
I don't know if that works by Vaydazar, if there's mumar late'avan. I don't know. I'm not sure. By food and things.
By Pesach, he didn't say.
That's
He
also
didn't make a
late'avan.
comparison.
Right.
It was late'avan?
What are you saying from Taisvis?
No, Pesach. I didn't say Pesach.
No, Shuli, what do you say?
Sorry.
No, I'm saying, like you said, that's Tava.
The Taisvis says.
Vayisadava says also that's Tava.
Oh, excellent.
Everything has to be the Tava. Otherwise, I can't eat.
Very interesting. Okay. So, where are we holding now? We're holding that it could be that he's drinking wine, which is permissible, but he's not eating the meat. So we don't have a proof from Yeshaphat that mumar la'avedazara, someone that worships idols, you're allowed to eat his meat. Iba Yisema, for one thing I could tell you, lav orcha de malka mishta b'lei michla. It doesn't make sense that he would drink wine without eating meat. He's a king. He's not going to just have such a meal. Iba Yisema, if you want I could tell you, Vayizbach vayisitu ksiv. It says that they slaughtered and he convinced him. That means b'ma hesitu b'zvicha. How did he convince him to go to battle with him, to support him in his battle? Was with the meat. So we're convinced now that he ate the meat. Shepard ate the meat, and it must be because that you can trust the idolater that his meat is kosher.
That's right. That's why most business deals probably take place in like fancy steakhouses, like in Manhattan now. The meat.
You have to convince him.
Makes sense.
I thought the big business deals were on the golf course.
That's the setup.
But
that's the setup. The signing takes place at the steakhouse.
Yeah. Well, it takes longer to eat a steak meal. More schmooze done.
Vidilma, the Gemara asks a question. Vidilma Avadia Zavach. You see, what happened was Avadia was was in charge of Achav's house. He was in charge of the kitchen. Avadia was a tzaddik. He was a navi, and he was supporting their 2 caves of 50 prophets in each cave.
This is the value from the Haftarah?
Yeah.
It's
The
okay.
oil?
He was a ger. Yeah, he was a ger.
Yeah, is that what it says?
Yeah, he was a
So he was in charge of Achav's kitchen. So he was a tzaddik. We have no proof. Avadia was destined. It says L'Roiv Ksiv. It says that there was a lot. Avadia Loi Havi Sipik. Avadia wouldn't have been able to slaughter all of that. There must have been helpers there that were doing the shechita that wouldn't have been accepted. B'dilma shiva salavim zavuach. D'ksiv Yesharti b'Yisrael shiva salavim. Kol ha'berkayim asher kar labal. There were 7,000 people that didn't worship idols. Maybe these are the 7,000 people that were left over there that were still kosher from they didn't bow to idols. Maybe these are the ones that were doing the shechita. No, Tamuri Havi Matamri Mizevel. These 7,000 people were hiding from Mizevel. Mizevel was out to get anyone that didn't support her beliefs. The Gemara says, "V'dilma gavra da Achav havimalu." How do you know that Achav's men were all bad? Maybe Achav had men that were good, and Avadia couldn't have done it alone, but he had help. But those helpers were also righteous. Don't think like that. A ruler that listens to lies, all his servants are wicked.
Wow.
Whoa. Accomplice.
You read this
By association.
Accomplices.
What is that?
Guilty by association. Not a
All his servants are wicked.
All his servants are wicked. So it can't be that they're righteous. Okay, but we have a solution. Maybe Yoshafat's men were not tzaddikim either, and they ate from all of what the wicked men slaughtered. Zavuach Gavri Da'achav, and what would happen would be that the men of Achav slaughtered in Achal Gavri de Yoshafat. Yoshafat's men ate from it. Zavuach Avadia, Achal Yoshafat. Maybe of Yoshafat ate from a special plate that Avadia slaughtered. Yoshafat's men were wicked, and they ate from Achav's men's slaughtering. It says, Leisal Kedaitach. Don't think like that. If a wicked person, if a ruler that listens to lies, all his servants are wicked, so someone that listens to only the truth, Yoshafat, then his servants need to be righteous. So it can't be that they would eat from Achav's men's slaughtering. Vidilma Zavuach